Wow, Women of Wrestling is off to a hot start heading into the new year. South Florida can watch 11 p.m. Saturdays on My 33. See all the action from the wild superheroes and villains and hear all the action as narrated by Mr. Wow, David McLane, whose history dates to the birth of Glow. And here he is. Thank you, David McLane. Tell us about Wow.
Jim, what a pleasure to be on the phone with you, my Miami historian and friend. And wow, Women of Wrestling is kicking butt and taking names. And I tell you, how about a little Miami sweet heat in the house? The new Wild Tag Team Champions of the world, Miami Sweet Heat, Lindsay and Lori Carlson.
That was just awesome, David, because Miami Sweet Heat in this new season, and wow, I'm just so impressed with all the talent, because when it originated way back when with Glow and just to where it is today, it seems like now there's more emphasis on the wrestling, and it's still character-based, and the names are so much fun, and the character ring gear and just their backstory, and putting some of reality of who they really are with those vignettes, and then putting them into their character. It's just such a well-designed format that you all created. It's all women wrestling. And David, just with that whole evolution, what is it like today's Wow for you?
Well, it's exciting for all the reasons you just mentioned. Well, I think the part respectful of the talent and the evolution of who these performers are is what's most interesting, Jim. We're able to bring to the viewers every week, every Saturday there on My 33, insight to who the WOW superheroes are. And that drives the viewers to connect to them, feel the heart and pace and the connection to these wrestlers. And that's what's interesting now. It's the true stories of who they are. You take the tag team champions, for instance, Miami Sweet Heat. You know, they grew up in Nebraska. That's where their mom and dad are. That's where their roots are. They were Division I basketball players. They moved to Florida up in the Tampa area to start an occupational therapy business after they got their master's degree. Then they flew down to Miami Beach for a weekend, and they just loved it. And who wouldn't love the sunshine of Miami and the vibrant life that it offers? And all of a sudden, Miami Sweet Heat is born. And you know who trained them? Alpha Zika, the wild Samoan, is their trainer. And as everyone knows, he's related to the Tonga twins, who they just, defeated for the tag team championship. So there's a connection there. All the backstories, the connections, the wrestling, you'd have to agree, Jim, is terrifically improved from 20, 30 years ago. I mean, we've got real athletes in the ring today. Wouldn't you agree?
I definitely agree. There's talent there that has pro wrestling background, and it's just great to see. You mentioned the Samoans, you mentioned them and all, and WXW, which here in Florida is based in Mineola, and it's a great starting point, working realm for these aspiring wrestlers. And Miami Sweet Heat was able to get their start there, the Carlson twins, and have really elevated themselves. And with having wrestlers like that on your roster, it's just really good to see. And you mentioned this outstanding tournament for the Wild Tag Team titles, and you just had the culmination of it this past weekend's series of show that they had two twins competing against each other, two sets of twins, with Miami Sweet Heat versus the Tonga twins, which was a unique in itself. And it was so exciting to see. But then David, near the end of that match, Lana Starr, oh my gosh, she's always sticking her nose in somewhere, Lana Starr. Her and another Florida indie talent, who's now a WOW superhero, is Penelope Pink. Penelope Pink. And what are your thoughts on what happened at the end of that? And oh my gosh, no spoiler alerts here, but what the heck's happening?
The spoiler alert is I thought Lana and Penelope Pink had enough at the announcer's table and were leaving to go back to the dressing room. And as I looked up, here they are at ringside, and I couldn't believe what they had done, coming to ringside to assist Miami Sweet Heat by pulling out those mirrors and popping the Tonga twins in the head with them. I couldn't believe it. And of course, the rest is history. They assisted with the victory, and Lana Starr has pulled off a coup, if you will, as the new manager and her plot to become that manager now of both the Carlson twins. It was amazing. I didn't believe it. I thought Lana was taking off, and here she is at ringside. It was great. It was great for Lana. You know, she's a nemesis of mine, but she's been in WOW since day one, and I am glad to see the fabulous Lana Starr achieve some greatness with the championship with her again. People would be surprised I'd say that, but I am glad to see it. Good for her. But I don't know how long she'll hold on to them, because she's got the Tonga twins breathing right down the necks of the Carlson twins. And you've got a tag team that people are going to start to watch. Coach Campanelli and Randi Rara, who's another Florida resident. I tell you, half the company already lives in Florida. We've got to bring WOW to Florida. We
Yes.
got WOW based in Florida.
That's what I'm saying. Bring it to Florida. The state taxes, we don't have them. It's bad. Come on.
I love it. I love it. You can even tax dog food down there in Florida.
Yes. Well, David, as we talked earlier, I know you have history with South Florida, even bringing some of the women's wrestling here to South Florida back in the day. So we would love WOW. It would be great to have WOW here. And I know you love the South Florida, Miami area and all too. But I thought, David, I have to say, that storyline was really well played for that tag title match, where I'm thinking, Lana and Penelope Pink, they're obviously going to challenge the tag team champions, whoever it would be. But instead, they end up assisting Miami Sweet Heat for the victory. That I thought was really well done, and it makes for interesting, compelling TV moving forward.
Well, I appreciate you noting that. It's interesting that people are enjoying WOW. It offers an alternative to the other wrestling programs that are on the air. It's the only all-women's wrestling program, Jim, in our history that's on in every television market in the entire country. That's something in itself. And it's been a passion, as you know, of mine since you came to one of our events I promoted at the James L. Knight Center back in the 80s. And it's just so great to see the women finally having a platform for everyone to see how great their athleticism is, and they are. It's just fabulous.
And their character portrayals are really something different too. And I love the names. David, do you come up with a lot of the names? Do you have a group that does that? Or the wrestlers themselves come up with the names? It's so fun and cool.
In the old days, I'll say I came up with 80-90%. And today, no, the women themselves come to us and we go, listen, we'd like you to have a persona. No one knows Irvin Johnson. They know Magic Johnson. They know Air Jordan. Even if they're an XFL football fan, who do they remember? He hate me. So everybody remembers the character. And so we create these characters and these personas based on who the individuals really are. And, if the Carlson twins had never gone to Miami, they'd never be named Miami Sweet Heat. In fact, they embraced the city and they loved it so much. It was a natural, the way they dressed, the way they looked, the way they loved to party. And in terms of, Randi Rara, the cheerleader, she's up in Gainesville and she's the coach on a national cheerleading team. Coach Campanelli always was the team captain in sports that she played in high school up into college. She was a natural to be basically the coach. So all these names emerge from who the personalities are. Foxy Fierce came to me and said, I want to be foxy and I want to be fierce. And I said, but that's a great name. Why do you like that? And why are you identifying with Foxy? And she said, my grandmother and my mother were very positive women. They raised all great daughters, were graduates of Howard University, and one of my icons is Pam Grier from the 60s, 70s movies. And Pam Grier represented the first African-American superhero that she said she and her mom and grandmother would watch, and they loved watching Pam Grier kick butt and break down stereotypes. And she's playing homage to Pam Grier when she's in that ring as Foxy Fierce. So all these people's names, characters, personas come from something uniquely identified with them. And I think that's great, and that's why people identify. People can smell authenticity and the lack of it. And I think that's why they like WOW. It's authentic.
And that's such a strong point, because that is so true in our professional wrestling landscape. So many things work when you can connect with something that is authentic. And it's great to see that happening with WOW. And I'm curious, David, I want to ask you a little more about Penelope Pink, someone that we're noted to in Florida and down here in South Florida. The WOW wrestlers, they are allowed to work for other organizations, but as long as they don't use the WOW name, their ring name there, is that how it works for them usually?
Yes, it does. I don't want to stifle their wrestling careers or their learning curves as they wrestle in the independent circuit. And so their IP that's created with WOW stays exclusive to WOW when you watch the WOW programming. And, of course, people will learn to identify with them as that because they watch them every week on TV. But we still allow them to enjoy. You look at the Carlsons, they were, not really growing up wrestling fans, but they were athletes. And they wanted to look for something they could do that they could put their foot in, if you will, and be athletic again. And they started the wrestling training there in Florida. And then all of a sudden, they were graduating to becoming great-looking independent wrestlers on the circuit. We don't want to take that away from them. We want to inspire them to have fun and do that, and also come to WOW and show how great their skill sets are.
And I've seen Penelope...
WOW elevates who they are and turns it up to a 12, if you will, Jim.
Oh, please, I understand that totally. It really... You're seeing them on a bigger level. They're grander, bigger, larger than life when they're on WOW. It's just really fun to see that. And the fans there having a good time as well. And I'm curious, I've seen Penelope Pink on many shows this season. What do you like about her, David?
Well, I'm fortunate enough that she came to L.A. This summer and stayed there for a month and a half. So I was fortunate enough to literally go to dinner with her and meet her and get to know her over a month's time at the training center we have in L.A. And she's a big personality. But what I found interesting is she's a student of professional wrestling. She's a real student of the art of professional wrestling. And she knows a tremendous amount of the background of wrestling. And her persona comes from her confidence. She oozes it, and you see that in the ring, and she displays that. And it's because of her full knowledge of professional wrestling and the genre and the sport of it. And she's a great athlete. I mean, she is really good in that ring.
And David, how do you all find this talent? It's amazing because there's a lot of, we've seen a women's revolution in pro wrestling, an evolution of a revolution. And down here in Florida, we have someone I think that might make a really good fit for WOW. Her name is Amber Nova. She is an actual mechanic. She has a background in mechanic, and she classic cars and restoring cars and knowledgeable about with cars, which is totally different. And she comes to the ring with a big wrench.
I love it.
And I look at her and I say, this may be someone for WOW, but how do you find talent? How does talent find you all?
Well, that's what happened with the Carlsons initially. Last year in January, we were coming to Miami as part of the National Television Convention, and we were going to be there at the beautiful Fontainebleau Hotel on Miami Beach. And unfortunately, as many of us know, COVID derailed the event, and subsequently we weren't able to come. But we had posted that we were coming there looking for that Florida talent and East Coast talent, because WOW had not been outside the state of California before. And we had so many great submissions from talent. And when the Carlson twins photograph ran across my desk, they looked like stars. And I bet you just described Miss Nova, and you said how she's got the wrench and her background's a car mechanic in real life. I mean, that's what you look for. And the Carlson twins had what I like to call airport appeal. And what is airport appeal? It means if they're walking in the airport, you're going to pick your head up from reading and look at them. And you're going to watch them as they walk through the airport. And they have that. And many, if not all, the WOW superheroes have it. They've got airport appeal. So in terms of how we found people, we had an event. We were going to do a tryout down in Miami at the Fontainebleau, and we received inquiries about it. And the Carlsons made their way through that inquiry. Now, what happens from there? Well, it was on them. They literally had to fly themselves out to Los Angeles, and they stayed at a friend's house, and they came to the WOW training school. You know, Jim, you can appreciate this, because in Florida, there's no more training schools than in Florida. They've got training schools all the way up and down both coasts for wrestling. But we have the only all-women's wrestling training school in the nation, and it's in California. And it gives a very safe environment for women to learn the skills of wrestling. So the Carlsons jumped on a plane, came out to L.A., stayed on their own dime, and tried out in the WOW Training Center. And that's how they were hired. They took the initiative. They jumped on that plane, came out to L.A., and they wrestled. And when I went in there and watched them, I said, these two could be great one day. And as you can see from this Saturday night, they are.
What a great story, David. I had a couple more things. Do you have a few more minutes? I don't want to take up all your time. All right.
Certainly.
This is the thing. I think this is another thing which I think we need to talk about with WOW. AJ Mendez, formerly WWE AJ Lee, is on commentary with you all. And I believe she's an executive producer. Did I get that right too, David?
Yes, indeed.
What is it like working with her? She is so good on commentary, but I'd like to get your insight and if you can give the short story of how that all came together.
Working with AJ Mendez has been unbelievably great, not only for me personally, but for the wrestling fans who listen to her commentary, because she's able to bring insight to the wrestling fan and the viewer I could never bring. She looks through a window, a pyramid, if you will, that my glasses would never look through. And she brings that insight to the fans and is able to talk about the wrestlers and their experiences, not only in the ring, but even outside the ring, in their lives. There's a performer named Vivian Rivera, and AJ calls her the Rose from the Concrete, and how, talks about her struggle and her backstory and her life. And AJ even brought one talent to WOW that the fans are going to see in a few weeks. Jennifer Flores. She's our very first Gen Z wrestler in WOW. And AJ brought her to WOW. She saw her wrestling on the independent circuit, and she's kind of become a mentor for her. And I got to tell you, what a story. Here's a girl, Jennifer Flores, that's her character name in WOW. She's watching professional wrestling as a little young girl, and one of her heroes is AJ Lee. Then one day, the phone rings at her house, and she says, hello, and she says, hi, this is AJ Mendez. Can you believe getting that phone call? That'd be like if you're a basketball player in high school and you pick up the phone and Michael Jordan's on the other side of the phone.
You're probably thinking at first, okay, which one of my friends is ribbing me here?
Yes, exactly. And AJ said, hey, I'm involved in WOW Women of Wrestling, and I saw you wrestle, and I thought you'd be a great addition to WOW. Would you please reach out to David McLane, and let's see if we can get you in here. And that's what happened. And she is a dynamite in the ring. Literally, I see some moves she pulls off of jumping and leaping off the ropes I've never seen before. I'm not the wrestling historian in terms of knowing names of moves. Our co-announcer, Stephen Dickey, is. He's the man that knows 1,000 holds. But I tell you, I know what I see and haven't seen, and I've seen things that I've never seen ever in my life when she jumps and flips and does maneuvers in the ring. She's very exciting. AJ calls her the future of wrestling, and she is. So we're just so fortunate she's in WOW. So AJ's brought a view, a touch, and an insight to WOW that we would not have without her there. So she's invaluable. And announcing with her is much fun. I've noted publicly once, this is the second time, our first event was just totally crazy, Jim. There was so much going on, I hadn't any time, to focus on the night's event. And so by the time the broadcast part of the event was to start at 7 o'clock, 7:30, I had literally just walked to the table. And AJ and I never once rehearsed. So I was either the biggest moron in the world or a genius. Luckily, I think a genius because I put AJ on the mic based on instinct. And she and I hit it off instantly and had great chemistry. And it worked.